Hey folks, welcome back to Murky Shadows Outdoors. We're going to take advantage of this warm December day and get some maintenance done on the boat. Going to grease up our steering system and make a few adjustments. Let's get going. So it's difficult to show you every step of the way because of the way the boat's configured, the way the steering shaft stays in the boat. So basically what I did was I came in here and took the steering wheel off, took the nut off. I got a gear puller, pulled the steering coupler off here, and then there is a compression washer that goes on the back side of the shaft that holds it into the into place into the gearbox in there. Once you disconnect that on the back side under the console, you'll be able to pull this out. Once you pull this out, if you take a look at this gear system here, my gear system looks pretty good. There's a little bit of wear. I'm not sure if you can see that in the video. There's a little bit of wear there. The grease was all gummed up. What I'm going to re-grease the shaft and I'm going to put everything back in place. This should help tighten up the steering and also make it a little more smooth transition from gear to gear. This gear slides into another gear that is located inside just under this console that connects to the cable that runs back to the motor. All right folks, so basically what I'm doing here is I'm using a WD-40 brand degreaser. Not that I'm making an endorsement for WD-40. Their industrial strength degreaser seems to work well for these types of applications. I just sprayed just a little bit on the surface like so, and then I use an old toothbrush to clean off all of that old grease and debris. You don't want any of that sticky grease on the gears because that will obviously stick once you put your steering back together. Once you feel like you've got all the grease off, just take another rag and make sure that you wipe any of that excess degreaser off. You don't want to leave any degreaser on there because as you re-lubricate or grease this gear, that degreaser will not allow or to break down the grease faster. If you happen to have an air compressor or something like that, then you can use that to also help dry this off and get that degreaser off of there. I'm showing you here without an air compressor because just in case you don't have one, it's not necessary that you need one. Also, any sticky grease that may be on the shaft of your steering, you want to make sure that you wipe that down. Any metal burrs on the shaft will also obviously hinder the smooth operation of your steering. So if you need to, take a low grit piece of sandpaper and polish up the shaft, or in some cases if you have a hard burr you may need to use a file. If you use a file, don't go too crazy with it. You can mess up the surface and cause more issues with your steering. Now cleaning your nylon bushings are very much the same way. You just put a little bit of that degreaser on there and use a toothbrush to get any of that residual old grease and grime off. Once you get it broke loose with the toothbrush, again, just wipe it clean with a rag. It's pretty much ready to go. Now, one thing I will mention is there's a little bit of a plastic burr here. That may or may not be causing issues with my steering being tight. So what I'll do is err on the side of caution. Just take a sharp knife and cut that burr off. Now it's gone and I don't have to worry about that getting stuck in between the bushing and the steering shaft. All right, so we got all of our parts cleaned up, degreased, and ready to go, ready to install back into the boat. So by degreasing all of that stuff and getting the sticky surface off of there, once I put a light coat of grease back on this and I put the stuff back together, I should have a nice smooth steering back on the boat. One other quick point to mention is once you get ready to put your steering gear back onto the steering shaft, make sure that when you get ready to put the gear on, you put a light coat of grease on the shaft before sliding the gear on. If you don't, as you put this back into the console, this gear can slide off and it may not mesh and line up well with the gear inside for the steering cable. So if you put just a light coat of grease under this gear, it will help provide some suction and hold it into place. All right folks, so I got all the steering wheel back together. No more squeaky steering wheel. It's nice and smooth. I can turn it with one hand now. It's not binding and stiff like it was before. Still got a little bit of play in it. That is pretty standard for these old rack and pinion style steering. Just like an old car with rack and pinion, you're gonna have a little bit of play in it. But as you can see, I've got it adjusted, greased, and it's a lot smoother than it was before. So next we want to grease the actual steering cable on the engine. My grease fitting is located here. Each engine varies based on the cable connection for your engine. Mine happens to be in the center. Basically, I'm going to connect the grease fitting from the grease gun to that fitting. I'm going to pump it up, fill it with grease until I see clean and clear grease coming out of these joints here on the back of the engine. So just want to show you also, when you grease those fittings and in those joints, the old grease comes out. If it comes out a white pasty color like this, that means that it's old grease. It's been mixed with water. So you want to continue to pump until you get all of this out and you see clean grease that looks the same color of whatever the new grease you're putting in. In my case, my grease is green in color, so I should continue on till I see clean green grease coming out of those joints. So hopefully you can see now I've continued to pump until I got the clean green grease coming out of those fittings. Now I'm going to clean that up so it doesn't get blown all over my engine while towing down the road, and we're done. So we're going to end this video here, folks. Just keep in mind, in your application you may not need to remove your steering wheel. In my case, I was having some issues with my steering wheel squeaking. It was very stiff and tight. The adjustment knob was stiff and hard to turn and hard to adjust. So in my case, I took that gearbox apart, cleaned everything up, re-greased it, and put it back together. If you use this technique, keep your engine greased, you'll have more time on the water to catch fish. As always, I appreciate you viewing my channel. If you like the content, hit like. Leave me some comments if you have some suggestions or maybe know of different things to do to a boat motor in order to, you know, keep it up. As far as steering goes, just routine maintenance. I'm a DIY. There's my Rooster Earl again. I'm a DIY kind of guy. I like to do some of this stuff myself. Some of the more intricate stuff in the motor, I take it to a boat shop. But I hope you found some interest in this and something that could help you out. As always, thanks for your time. Hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you next time, and I'll catch you on the next cast.